Oh, all right, we here? Yes, get in here, get in here. It's time to get into some things, okay? Now listen, I know we're early, and so we're earlier than usual, but I have another show. I'm doing TMZ again today, and so I have to film TMZ right after this. So this is why I have to rush home and get to it. So I know we're early, but some of you guys will catch the replay. So if you're here now live, shout out to you. If you're here at the replay, shout out to you. All right, so we have a lot of things going on right now. If you're in New York, Pix 11 tonight, 5:30. I'm on the J Dow show. We are on filming for TMZ again tonight. It'll probably air Friday. And then tomorrow we're on Nancy Grace again. Shout out to Nancy Grace. We'll be back on, I think it'll air that night, and then it'll probably come out the next day. And also, there's some more things that you'll probably see me on from Nancy Grace too later on in the week. So we have a lot of stuff going on. So just rock with me, work with me. We're moving around. So we're doing this show. We're doing multiple shows today. I'm happy. I'm grateful. Shout out to everybody. So this is why we're early today. Yesterday I did take off because it was my birthday. I want to shout out to each and every person that came out and supported the birthday. We had a huge birthday party here in New York, birthday dinner. Everybody came out. Thank you guys for that. Shout out to everybody who has texted me, who has DM'd me, all of those things. I'm getting to it, but it's just I've been busy heading to court. So there was no show yesterday, okay? And as you guys know, there was a lot of things that had went on yesterday. And I'm going to get into the whole trolling and the stalking, and I'm going to very lightly address what happened, because I'm seeing people are pushing their own narratives. But you guys know, when you're climbing up, when things are happening, people, especially haters, you know what I mean? They haven't covered the trial. They haven't covered anything that we've got going on, but yet, you know, the heckling starts and people just start making up lies and making up narratives, acting like they know what happened and they weren't even there, and they're the furthest thing from the truth. So we're going to get into that just a little bit, because I'm not really giving that much of my energy, but I think it's important for you guys to know exactly what happened yesterday. And then we got to get into the explosive news of today. Ray J's name got dropped in court. Beyonce's name got dropped in court. Rihanna's name got dropped in court today. Diddy is holding women up by their knees, throwing knives at Cassie. Cassie throwing them back. We went over some forensic audio and video. It's just a lot. Okay? And so we got to get into it. All right? But before we do that, we got to shout out to our homie, Duchess Kelly Love, for giving us the tea.
Want to hear it? Here it go.
Wire. All my wiggins, bring the tea. I said, all my wiggins, bring the tea. I said, all my wiggins, bring the tea. We go down to the courthouse, bring the tea. He give us our Diddy news, bring the tea. He is never biased, bring the tea. I said, now all my wiggins, bring the tea. I said, all my wiggins, bring the tea. All my wiggins, bring the tea. All my wiggins, bring the tea. I want to thank all my bring the tea. I want to thank all my bring the tea. Oh, he's sassy and classy, bring the tea. I said, all my wiggins.
Yes.
Bring the tea.
Okay, more oil. Okay. And so we got to get into it, child. We got to get into it. All right. So are we all here on one accord? Are we here? Are we getting into the things? All right. So I want to get into this. So yesterday, obviously, was my birthday. Now, I got heckled, and somehow it ended up on TMZ. I'm not going to go back and play it because YouTube took the video down. There was a lot going on. So this courtroom has literally turned into a breeding ground and a zoo for just people to come out and spot their favorite social media people. Like, it's really kind of turned me off. There's some good people out there, but then there's some people that are just looking for moments, looking for clout, just looky-loos. And so now I've just got to the point where I talk to people, keep it really short, and I keep it moving, or I don't talk at all. You know what I'm saying? Or I go another way during lunchtime and I come back and I go upstairs. At first, I used to hang out. I don't do that anymore. Not as much, because it's like, it just gets to be really, really weird. You guys know on my birthday, I was planning on doing a live stream show outside the courtroom because I wasn't going to be able to go live here because we had to go. So I'm walking downstairs, and the first time I go live, or I'm setting up my camera, I guess this woman decided that she saw my camera and it's like, oh, this is Armand Wiggins, you know? And I don't be thinking to myself like that, but I guess other people do or whatever. So instantly she starts trying to troll me. But now I found out that she had been DMing me, and I didn't see the DMs. I didn't really care about her. It doesn't really matter. I don't owe you anything, and I don't talk to you, like, whatever. So this woman just starts heckling me because she sees I'm on live, and I'm just like, I'm a little flustered and thrown off, because I'm like, who are you and what is this? And I'm like, and first of all, is she talking to herself or is she talking to me? And then she's like calling me all kind of flagrant names and crazy obscenities. And I'm like, what is going on here? And so I'm trying to get away from this woman, and this woman keeps following me. And I'm just like, that's that culture there. This is not the same woman that got put out of the courtroom. Okay, I'm going to tell you about her too. That's a different lady. Okay, these are two different ladies. This lady, I guess, was in the overflow room. I was not. Contrary to what people are reporting, I guess there's a report out there that somehow I was in the courtroom and I was yelling, I want to go viral, and I was in the overflow room. Yes, I have been in the overflow room and in the courtroom. Both. I do both of them. But yesterday, I was in the courtroom. I was not in the overflow room with that lady. So those reports out there are simply lies. And so girls running around making it seem like they are the one that gets the tea and they're reporting on the news. They don't know what they're talking about. So tell those haters to just continue being a hater and just sit in your corner and eat your food, okay? Because you don't know what you're talking about. I was not in the overflow room. I didn't never see this lady until I went outside and she got on my camera and started going live. So I don't know what reports are out there, then trying to mix me up with Gene Deal. Y'all got me confused with somebody else. I don't do none of that. I don't have any problems. I don't have any drama. I don't have time for that. I'm too busy. Everything is happening very quickly every day. Okay. I barely have time to eat and go to the gym. I don't have time to be beefing with anybody at the courthouse. I have no drama with nobody. And that's just what it is. I have no issues. So this lady comes, she's trolling me, she's following me. It was just a lot. I had to curse her out a little bit. It's no shade. And we moved on. That was the last time I seen of her. Okay. So that's just what that was. Now, a lot of people come to these court cases. They want a moment. Everybody wants to see somebody. Everybody wants to do something. That's just what this case has bred. I honestly can't wait for this case to be over, because I don't want to deal with a lot of these people. A lot of these people feel like, oh, you're obtainable because you're there. We're on the same level, and it's this, it's that. We're not. I'm not obtainable to you. Don't follow me. Don't harass me. None of that. You know, it's a little bit annoying. But either way, we're here. We had a great day yesterday, but I just want to let you guys know that literally came out of nowhere. And so that is why, even if I do record outside of the courthouse, I will have to do it a different way. I think it's a little OD to have security, but I think at this point, I mean, if it gets like that, then I may have to do that because it's a little annoying. All right. And you would think that the courts are better about that stuff, but I don't know. I guess they're not. So anyway, what did we learn yesterday? Couple of things yesterday. The biggest takeaways from yesterday was the fact that Diddy paid $100,000 to the Intercontinental Hotel to get that video footage. Okay, paid $100,000 for that footage and thought that it was going to be over. Another thing, there was a lady who got put out of the courtroom. We were both in the main courtroom. Okay, and she was sitting behind me. She had already been getting in trouble because she was wearing her hat. And the guy told her to take her hat off. And she was like, I don't want to take my hat off. I'm a woman, blah, 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 blah. He was like, I don't care what you are. There's no hats in here. Take your hat off. Okay. She took it off. I'm looking at her like, girl, You know what I'm saying? I'm over here looking back at her like, girl. I mean, because he's yelling loud, like, because they were getting into it. And then out of nowhere, when Diddy walks in, we're sitting there for a minute and she goes, Diddy, these white motherfuckers trying to kill this man legacy. All these motherfuckers sitting back laughing at you, Diddy. And I'm like, girl, and Diddy, everybody turned back, but I'm looking at Diddy and I'm looking at, I'm trying to see, well, what's going on? Then the man was like, get out of here. And she was acting like she wasn't going to go in here, reach for it. And she said, yeah, you white mother, pull your gun out. I'm like, oh my God, if he shoot this woman in here, I'd die. But don't shoot her. But like if he would have like shot her with a taser or a gun or something, I don't know what I would have did. I probably would have gagged. I probably would have been like, girl, what? You know what I mean? But I probably would have cackled on the inside a little bit because I just would have been a lot. But yes, all of that had went down. I'm just like, wow. It's a lot of moving parts. And so there was two people trying to wrestle her out. Eventually she had got put out. It was just a whole shenanigan. Everybody was gagging. It was a lot going on. Okay. Also, I don't know if they found him yet, but there's a publication on Twitter. There's YouTubers. The fans are watching everybody's page. People are putting out Mia's name. We're not talking about YouTubers that's not here. We're talking about people that are actually here. The fans are watching everybody. And so people are being watched and people are asking to not be invited to the court if you guys are exposing that woman's identity. I don't even know her name, so I know it's not me. It is what it is. Okay. I'm just gonna leave it at that. Because listen, I don't know. People are throwing different names around. People are also sharing videos of who it was and what happened and timestamps. That had nothing to do with me. I know it wasn't my video. I know it wasn't me. So we got to keep it cute on the jurors, and we're gonna keep it cute on the people under the pseudonyms. Not too much heavy I'm not doing a lot of heavy description on the jurors. Not probably even gonna do too much talking about the jurors because I can't be wrapped up in that because the feds are watching everybody and everything that people are doing right now, and I just can't be involved. Okay? So, I will say this, though. In regards to Diddy, the last few days, Diddy has been looking chipper than a motherfucker. Okay? His energy has been up. He's feeling like he's got to win. Okay? However, just like yesterday, they showed the $20,000 being deposited and being transferred to his account and back to his account where he pretty much blackmailed the mom for the $20,000 back that he spent on Cassie because he got mad that she was cheating. So they pulled that up. So I don't know how they're going to, deflect from that. The $100,000 that came out. So I don't know how he's going to deflect from that. So that was all yesterday. So today we get into forensic audio and video. So the idea with the forensic audio and video of the surveillance video of him attacking Cassie in the hotel, my thought with that is the prosecution is trying to lay the foundation that forensic, that video is accurate as it was depicted. What I believe that the defense is trying to say is, hey, that video was sped up. And because it was sped up, it looks more gruesome than it actually was. But the video was tampered with, so that's why it looks more harsh. But at the end of the day, you can't unsee the video. What I thought was interesting, though, in the back and forth, the defense, the prosecution, as they were going through that video and they were talking to the forensic audio and video guy, they kept playing the video all the way through. And every time you play that video all the way through, even though we're supposed to be breaking down the forensics of the video and the pixelation of the video and the timestamps of the video and just how the video glitches in and out and, really analyzing the video frame by frame, I just think it's interesting that they make sure that they play that full video through. And because they know every time you play that video, just in case you forgot, don't you forget that this is what he did. You know what I mean? And then the defense, when it was their turn to try to cross-examine they were trying their hardest to go to the beginning of the video where you just see Cassie walking out to the end of the video without playing the middle part. So you could just tell the different strategies. The defense never wanted to play the part where Cassie was attacked. They were trying their hardest not to play that part because it keeps restarting that in your memory bank. So I thought that was a very interesting strategy on both ends. But let's get into the forensics of the prosecution and the audio and video guy. Pretty much what I took away from that was that video was corrupted, but not corrupted in a way where someone tampered with it. It was corrupted because it had got saved, pulled from a file, and uploaded, you know, for these cases and things like that. So once you download it, save it, transfer it, you know, it loses, I guess it loses frames or whatever. It starts to get pixelated. It's corrupted in a sense. The guy was able to put together all the different parts of the camera footage and create like a 9-minute video showing you what happened from beginning to end. So we got to see, you know, really what happened. He took cell phone video footage from where some of the guys were recording on the phone, on the computer, to the computer of footage. And then he also took some surveillance footage and put together a, you know, a video reel, if you will, of basically the sequence of events and how they happened. The issue with that was some of the timestamps were off in the video. And so he had to break down what it means for the timestamps to be off for the different cameras. Like maybe it'll show 11, you know, 11:12 in 53 seconds, but then it'll show 11, you know, 14 in 55 seconds, something like that. And it will be like, well, how is this making sense if the timestamps are off? And that was what the defense was trying to say. Well, how is this video cohesive if the timestamps are not adding up? So they had to break down why Cassie and Diddy, at least the characters in the video, were pixelated and the walls in the video weren't pixelated, and why the timestamps were a bit off. So I'm going to explain to you how that works. So what I got from this is when we're talking about frame rates, and I'm no video audio expert, I'm just going off what he said. When we talk about frame rates, when there's stuff that's still, like this wall, this door, it's not moving, it just stays there. It doesn't just refresh, especially when you have motion sensors and things like that. It just stays. But when you have an active figure in the frame, every second it refreshes. So in my mind, the frame rate was at, I think, at like 21 frames per second. I think it went up to like 20. I mean, he moved it to 30 frames per second because he had to slow it down and make it actual the real time that it was. It was a bit faster, but he slowed it down and he really still, he made it the actual 30 frames, which proved that the video was an accurate video. It just had some corruption with the files on it due to the download, but it wasn't tampered with by another person, okay? And so what we saw in the video is what we saw. So essentially, it was just dropping frames because the frame rate couldn't catch up. And so when what would make the timestamps be off is the fact that when the thing is dropping frames, the time, while it's not dropping frame rate, it's trying to figure out what time we're in. Because when you see the pixelation and the frames dropping, it just, you can't tell, it's hard for the time to read until there becomes stabilized video. And then oftentimes the time corrects itself. Then also with 3 different surveillance cameras, it can just mean 3 different time frames, because if we're looking at a motion sensor type of camera and I'm not in the frame, the time stops until it sees motion in the frame, then the time picks up. So for that, you can also have different timestamps, because if there's no motion sensed, then the time clock doesn't start. Sometimes the time clock will just sit still until motion starts, until it picks up motion. So that was the whole basis of this morning, breaking down and understanding chronologically how these events actually happened. And I think that the prosecution did a great job by making it very clear about how this video has not been corrupted by a man, by a person. It is, in fact, it is what we see. It is as gruesome as we look, as it appears to be. while the defense tried to undermine and make it seem as though, something else had to be wrong with the video. People were cropping things, people were manipulating the video, and it wasn't manipulated. What we saw is what we saw, and it was real and accurate. So that was a very interesting take. Okay. So then we got to some testimony, and this is when it got really, really good. So I'm going to be honest with you guys. I don't know how this is going to go. This next witness was Brianna Bonner. Okay. She used to be, well, she still is cool with Cassie. She was one of Cassie's friends. But this was Cassie's girlfriend that used to get high. Like, this the girl, she used to get high, girl. She was supplying the drugs. Like, they were getting full out of their mind. Okay. And so Brianna was ready to evoke her Fifth Amendment right because she didn't want to incriminate herself on that stand. So they had to give her immunity right there today on the stand before she can talk. The defense told her and the prosecution told her, girl, if you get up here and lie and commit perjury on this stand, we will revoke your immunity and you will be charged. You can go to jail. I could tell she didn't want to be up there. I'm going to tell you, I believe her. But that Westmoreland defense attorney, she ain't no joke. So we're just going to get into what she said on the prosecution side, and then we're going to get into what she said in the cross-examination as far as the defense. Okay. So this is the girl that was allegedly held over the balcony by Diddy, and first by her titty. You know what I'm saying? So they went into who Brianna was, creative director, marketing, whatever, artsy-fartsy. To me, it translated into no job. But either way, she was doing some stuff, her own little business, blah, 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 blah. You know how people say, what do you do for a living? Oh, I'm marketing, this, that, and creative, da, da, da. For my business. Okay, no job. So I wrote no job, but something in the arts. And creative, like everybody else in LA. You know what I'm saying? But, she may know a couple of more people. So they kind of just started like, and she came in hot, she's been bruised by Diddy. She has night pains, night terrors. She's paranoid. It's a lot going on. Okay. She's Cassie's friend. Her and Cassie met, in 2013, 2014. I think they were working for a streetwear company called Young and Reckless. She was a graphic designer at that point. Then she was working with, in 2014, 2015, she started working for Diamond Supply Company. And her and Cassie were working together, building like a brand. They were trying to do she was helping Cassie get her ideas out. They were doing a women's clothing brand, okay? So they went into, did you meet Cassie while she was dating Diddy? She said yes. They asked her, how was that relationship? She said the relationship with Cassie and Diddy was very volatile. People in the courtroom was thinking, ooh, volatile. Very much so ups and downs. She said she met Diddy a year after she met Cassie because she wasn't a fan of Diddy. Because apparently Diddy would do so many egregious things to Cassie. She would hear and she would see, and it would just be phone calls. So she always wanted to keep her cool away from Diddy. Okay. But she met him a year later. She said she didn't like him, so she didn't really want to meet him. Okay. She said she would see Cassie with black eyes, blue eyes. Cassie would always be sad and upset. But one day, Cassie begged her to meet Diddy. Like, girl, you got to meet him. You got to just meet him. This is my man. Like, let's just, meet him. So Cassie apparently begged her to meet Diddy. And they would hang out at Cassie's Los Angeles house or apartment. Okay. Then they said, well, would you do drugs? Got right to it. Yes. Well, what kind of drugs would you do? Cocaine, ketamine, weed, the usual. And then I think they asked her kind of like who would be around sometimes. They said Mia, Carrie, Deontay, Rob Holiday. So, they would all just be hanging out and getting full and doing drugs, all the things of that. One day, they went to an Instagram post in 2016 where she posted a picture of her and Cassie. And Diddy called Cassie and said, where were you at? And Cassie, I said, we were just shopping. We were shopping around. And apparently Diddy went and sent Cassie a list of everywhere they had been that day. So it freaked out Bonna because it was like, well, how does he know everywhere we've been through the day? As like they've had a tracker on him. He was being watched. I don't know. So she said, oh my God, this is so crazy. Then they started to talk about, where she would sleep. So they're laying the foundation for her to get into the balcony. So they asked her, well, where would you sleep at Cassie's house? How often would you be there? And apparently, but if you look at Bonna, she kind of gives that. You know what I'm saying? Take a look at the thumbnail and, she's kind of like a hipster skater. I think she's a lesbian. And so a little rough around the edges, but not really, but kind of greasy. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like I might wash my hair, I might not. My underarms might be shaved, but then I might not bathe. Just a lot of different kind of things like that. And so she would say sometimes she sleep on the balcony. I don't know if that was a nap. I don't know if that's just, I'm spending the night, let me sleep on the balcony. I don't know. But, people do strange things. Some people, they live that lifestyle. It's a nomad life. I'm outside, just wake up with a bunch of bed bugs. It's LA. Who cares? We're just so high. Let's lay outside on the balcony and play homeless. I don't know. Sometimes she sleep in the bed. Sometimes she sleep on the couch. They're setting the scene up. Where would she sleep? Where would she be? Diddy would come over and bang on doors. Just randomly. She said Diddy just come over banging on doors. Banging on the doors. They said, have you ever seen any violence with Diddy and Cassie? Apparently, let me get back. I'll be right back. Apparently, allegedly, she said that Diddy banged on the door. He's banging on the door, busts through the door, and hawks a knife at Cassie. He just comes through and throws the knife at Cassie. Just walks in and hawks a knife at Cassie. Wow. So she don't know how he got in. He's banging on the door. He walks in and just throws the knife at Cassie. Bow. They said, well, what did Cassie do? They said Cassie picked the knife up and threw it back. And everybody in the courtroom said, ooh, ooh. So they were playing night. They were having like a crouching tiger, hidden dragon. She throwing knives, he throwing knives, and they doing like a knife, like they having like a knife fight, like a sword fight in the house. And apparently they'd have them often. They'd get up and Diddy just walk in and she'd have to armor up. Cassie just be ready, Diddy ready, and they just start. Okay? And she would just stand there. And then after everything would go down, Diddy would leave. And everything just goes back to normal. I don't know. I'm just telling you what they said. I'm just telling you what they said. I'm just telling you what they saying. Okay. And so they said, well, Diddy came through the door, chucked a knife at Cassie. Cassie picked the knife up and chucked it back at him. And they said, well, did you call the police? They said, did you call the police? And I said, they said, she said, no. I said, they said, well, why? And I wrote, she's the better witness than Mia. Cause I put very believable. At this time, she's very believable because it was like, she didn't really want to be there. She didn't really want to talk too much. They had to pull strings because I feel like she didn't want to incriminate herself. She said she didn't want to call the police because she was scared of Puff Daddy. So apparently, there was a day they asked her, have you ever seen Cassie with any abuse or anything on her? She said, well, FaceTime Cassie one time. We keep talking, going back to the perfect match. Remember the perfect match premiere? She said she FaceTimed Cassie, and Cassie didn't say nothing, just lifted up the phone and just panned over to her face. And she had 2 black eyes. They said, well, what did you say? She said nothing. They said, what did Cassie say? She said nothing. So Cassie is looking, and she looking, and Cassie is doing this, and she doing this with 2 black eyes, and then Cassie hangs up the phone. She would see Cassie getting bruised. On the 21st, on the 29th birthday, remember, that was the day, the 29th birthday day was all at Cassie's birthday party. Remember what Deontay was saying? Remember, Deontay was saying that Cassie wanted to go out, and then she didn't want to go to the freak off. And she wanted to go to karaoke, and Diddy was harassing her, and then that's when Diddy said, oh, y'all girlfriend to get some dick today. Remember that? Okay, so boom, another character that was at the karaoke. So the 29th birthday party, she said everything was cool, but Diddy and Cassie were fighting. Deontay said that there wasn't really much physical. She didn't see too much physical, but they were arguing. Now we know what the argue is. According to Deontay in his testimony last week, they were arguing because Cassie wanted to just be with her friends. So Mia, Vanna, Deontay, they're all there. But Diddy is wanting to do the freak off. And so he was mad at Cassie because he was saying, how could everything I do for you, you can't give me just this one thing. I want to freak off. I want to freak off and get freaky for your birthday. And Cassie was saying, well, no, I don't want to freak off today, Diddy. And so he hemmed her up in a corner, and he's arguing with her because he wanted to freak off. Eventually, they went back to Cassie's house. Everybody was there. But then they looked over the balcony, and Diddy and Cassie were riding away on a golf cart on the way to the freak off. Remember, Cassie didn't even really want to go to the freak off. After she went to Cassie's apartment, she packed her bag and she left. Now, they asked her this because she wasn't really given enough. They said, let me ask you this, ma'am. Were you subpoenaed to testify? Yes. And they said, is there an order for you to testify? Yes. She said, does this order protect you? No, it doesn't. It only protects you if you're not up here lying. So it will protect you if you tell the truth. But if we feel like you're lying, we will take away your immunity. So in other words, spit it out. You're holding back. What did he do? What happened to you? What was going on? Because she wasn't talking enough. She was trying to give like, I don't really want to talk. I don't want to be up here. I don't want nothing. I don't want to say nothing. And I'm going to just be honest with you. If I was her, I probably wouldn't want to say nothing either, because here's the thing. Once you get locked into the feds and they're watching you and they're watching this person, they're watching that person, yeah, I might have immunity, but how I know y'all not gonna be watching me once this case is over? Now I feel like I'm in y'all algorithm, so my phone is tapped. Y'all got people watching me, so I don't really want to say too much. Yeah, I got immunity. Yeah, I was the drug lady. Yeah, I was the one called. Yeah, I was the one ketamine. I was getting high as hell. Do I really want to go and tell y'all all of my connects and everybody that's been getting high and all the drugs? Do I really want to tell everybody all of that? Do you really trust the government? I know, like, even to this day, let's be honest. I know some people won't even talk to me on the phone because they always feel like the people watching or the people listening. Have you ever, y'all got people in your life like that? They be like, don't say that because you know they listening. Who the hell is they? Well, I figured out who they was because I'm sitting in federal court and they are definitely real people. Because they are on this live right now. They watch everything. And they listen to everything. So let's just be very, very, very clear on that. So, and then, because they wanted to get into this. Now listen, this is when it gets interesting. Because they was about to start grilling her. Did Diddy ever provide you with drugs? She said, yes. Well, what kind of drugs did he provide you with? Cocaine, ketamine. She said some MG something, something. Then she said G. I don't know what G is. And ecstasy. I've never heard of G in my life. So y'all will have to let me know what G is. Then she said, they said, have you ever seen Diddy do drugs? She said, yes. What drugs did you see him do? She listed all of them. Okay, ketamine, G, ecstasy. They said, would you do drugs with Cassie without Diddy? She said, yes. We would do drugs once a week. They said, well, what kind of drugs would you do with Cassie instead of Diddy? And see, we're going to get into it. She said, weed, cocaine, ketamine. They said, well, who would have the drugs? She said, we would have the drugs together. Like sometimes she'd give it to Cassie, sometimes Cassie would get, they were just getting high. It got to a point where her and Cassie developed a drug habit. Okay? But Cassie would pay her for drugs. So they said, well, would you ever sell drugs to Cassie? Or were you selling drugs to Cassie? She said, yes. So Cassie was wanting to get so high. Cassie was buying the drugs from her. So their relationship started to be, we're just going to be brackets. That was the relationship. Every time we're together, we're getting tore out of our mind. Tore, completely ripped. She'd have all the drugs. Cassie have the cash. Then they'd get into a mash. And they'd be in there, woo, loonier than a motherfucking Looney Tune. And so she said she was selling drugs She did want to stop doing drugs. She did. She said they both wanted to stop. They wanted to be better people. They said, well, what did you do when you wanted to stop doing the drugs? And how would you do it? And, how could you do it to ensure that you guys would be better people? She said, well, what we would do is we would go and we would try to cook. Instead of getting high, we try to go in the kitchen and cook. She kind of laughed. Everybody was looking around like, okay, shit. I mean, are you sure you just ain't high? So you hungry? You sure you ain't just got the munchies, bitch? You know what I'm saying? Or like, when did you try to cook? Was that after you hit the dope or before? You know what I'm saying? But she said it was so hard to get sober because there was always so many drugs around. We went into, has Diddy ever threatened you? She said, well, one time in Malibu, we were at a photo shoot. Well, I guess you could say, they was like, well, where was it? She was like, well, we were in the backyard. But I guess, I don't know if you can call it a backyard, but the house was just on the beach. So we were just downstairs. There's no backyard. It was just, the backyard was the full beach. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm thinking, I just wrote, damn, this is just some really rich right now. Like, everything just so rich. Even Cassie's apartment, just everything just felt like money. I'm just like, yeah, you can throw a knife at me in there. Because I'm just like, you hear this stuff and you think this only happens in the slums. And you're hearing all this crazy stuff happening on, but the views are just amazing. And so I'm thinking to myself, imagine being threatened, but then you're trying to tell this story, but then you're talking about it's the backyard, but she's dead serious. And she's like, yeah, it's the backyard. But I mean, it's not really the backyard. It's just like, it's the beaches back there. So the house is on the beach. So you go into the back and, whatever. And I'm thinking, I'm trying to be supposed to be paying attention, but I'm thinking, Jesus, what would that be like to just, yeah, I'm in my backyard. The beach, full beach. You know what I mean? That's the backyard. When I say backyard, I really mean backyard. Just grass, barbecue pit, a little bit of cement, and maybe an overhang. You know what I'm saying? For the shade. I'm not thinking a big, beautiful beach in Malibu. But anyway, so she said, well, we're in the backyard. And Diddy came up to her and behind her and said, bitch, I'm the devil. And I could kill you. And they said, well, what did you say? She said, I was so high, I didn't even stress it. When you're on that many drugs, you just be confident. She said she was so high of cocaine that day, she didn't even stress it. She just gained a confidence in her. Like, okay, whatever. She was that high. I'm sure she was high as hell. Think about it. You in Malibu, it's a photo shoot. You ain't got nothing to do. It's probably a middle of a Monday. Those people don't do, what's a Saturday to them? Every day is a Saturday or a Sunday fun day. Monday, let's do some ketamine on the beach and have a photo shoot in the backyard in Malibu on the water. Until Diddy walks in and tells you, bitch, I'm the devil. And I'll kill you. So that's apparently what had happened. And so she was so high, she continued in confidence at the photo shoot. It didn't faze her, apparently. She continued to stay. She hung out. She doesn't know why she stayed. But she just stayed. She said, well, shit, I was high. Do a lot of drugs. I was doing so much drugs then back then. I didn't give a shit. And I wrote, I like her. Because I'm thinking, you know what? That was real. They asked her, well, what were you thinking? She said, I wasn't. Bitch, I was high. Really wasn't tripping off that nigga. He was high. They said, was he high? She said, I think she said she don't know. But at the end of the day, I'm sure they all was high. So she was so high, she wouldn't even worry about it. Okay. So then we broke for lunch. So come back from lunch. Mind you, this lady took forever on lunch to let me get back upstairs. So I finally got back upstairs. And as soon as I got up, the lady was already on the stand talking, but I don't think we missed much. As soon as I got up there, she was getting into the story of the balcony. And so apparently, what had happened was she was facing the balcony. This wasn't in Malibu now. This was in Cassie's apartment in LA. Taking in the view. Now, I think Diddy must have been banging on the door, and out of nowhere, behind her, he walks up and I don't know what his thing is with coming behind people. So she's standing, taking in the view, and Diddy walks up behind her and grabs her by the titties and lifts her up over the balcony and catches her and holds her up like this, like that. First, he grabbed her there, squeezed him, lifted her up, and then held her like that. And then held her over the balcony and told her, you know what the f you did? You know what the f you did, B? You know what the f you did, B? And this is the 17th floor. She says she doesn't know what the f she did. She said she said she was so scared her feet were kind of on the railing and she was just trying to push back, but she was high as hell. They said, well, how long was he holding you up like that? She said, as many as times as you can say, I don't know what the f you did. So maybe you say that 3 or 4 times. That's how long that I was in the air over the balcony. So then she said, I don't know what the f you did. I don't know. You know what the f you did. You know what the f you did. You know what the f you did. You know what the, so it's about 10 to 15 seconds of holding her over the balcony. And then once he was done, he grabbed her and flung her on the furniture. Okay? So he took her from the balcony and flung her all over the furniture where she would sleep outside. Okay? And so she had hit her head, her back, her leg, everything. And they said, was Cassie out there? That was the confusing part. She said she was, they threw in the balcony furniture. Cassie was on the balcony, and they said Cassie stood in disbelief. And Cassie said, did you just fucking hang her over the balcony? Like, did you fucking just hang her over the balcony? And Cassie said, her girlfriend is in here. They said that Diddy just walked out and left. Now, the woman said she got up, she shook it off, and she went to hell home. All she wanted to do was get in the shower and relax until she looked down and she had bruises everywhere. She had severe neck and back pain, almost like she had gotten into a car accident. Okay? They said she had neck and back pain like she had gotten into a car accident. Huge bruises. But then they showed a picture. And this is the difference between her and Mia for me. They said, well, you have any photos? Whoa. They pulled up an exhibit and they showed a big, nasty bruise, and it was pierced through. It was disgusting on her leg. Then it was another picture that she had kind of posted on Instagram just for the date and the time. Bruise. So we saw the bruise. We saw the nasty, disgusting bruise. The date was September 26, 2016 at 9:45 a.m. I wrote, Mia should have done that. They said, did you take any medicine? She said she was in a lot of pain. She went to the chiropractor. They told her to go to the hospital because she didn't want to go. They said, well, at least go to the chiropractor. So she went to the chiropractor and she got a neck brace. They said, well, what happened to you? Who did this to you? She said she got so scared she just left. She got bandages. She paid for the bill and she just got the hell out of there. Then they said, were you in a lot of pain after that? Like, did it really, really hurt? And she said, to be honest with you, I was on so many damn drugs. I'd be so high, I didn't even know. I didn't feel nothing. She said, they said, well, when would you feel pain? She said, well, I would begin to feel pain when I would try to be sober. She said, I would just do so much cocaine and whatever, and MDMA and ketamine and ecstasy and anything you had. And I felt no pain. I was too high. After that, somebody called her, or actually after that, Diddy called her on FaceTime. And Diddy kept looking at her like this. Then he looked back in the camera. Then he looked like this. Then he looked back in the camera. Then he looked like this again. And he looked back in the camera. And she said, I don't want any problems with you. And I think Diddy just hung up the phone. After the balcony, they tried to be cool. They were still hanging out. They said, when's the last time you hung out with Diddy, Cassie, all together again after that balcony situation? She said, the last time I hung out with Diddy and Cassie after that situation was January 2nd of 2018. They said, why is it so specific? She said, because I tattooed it on my neck. She said, well, why did you tattoo it on your neck? She said, because I wanted to make a commitment to myself to get sober. And that was the last time. I'm never going back. That was the last time she was with Diddy and Cassie. They said, well, what happened? She said that they were at the hotel, at the one hotel. I don't remember if it was Miami or whatever, but they were all at the one hotel. her, Cassie, and Diddy, and they did 8 hours of ketamine. So they went into a ketamine hole for 8 hours. I don't know what that is or what, and I think that may have been at the one where then when Bonner left, Diddy and Cassie ended up having a dirty freak off. Remember, because they were last days. So they did 8 hours of ketamine. Then they went into a freak off. That's when she said she had had enough. They said, well, what, did you quit? Were you sober? She said, it wasn't easy. Not at first. They asked her, was she sober today? She said, yes. They said, how was your relationship with Cassie? We became separate a little bit, but me and Cassie are cool. Then he said, well, did you talk to Cassie about your lawsuit? No, did you talk to Cassie about her lawsuit? She said, yes. Because Cassie put her in the lawsuit, and she said that she called Cassie and said, hey, you got some of your information wrong in the lawsuit. It wasn't at a hotel, and the dates were wrong, and Tiffany was there. No, and Tiffany wasn't there. So she basically was saying, like, listen, so Cassie asked her permission to put her name in it, but she said no. So then Cassie put that situation in her lawsuit, but she apparently called Cassie and said, hey, you got some information wrong and the dates are wrong. Tiffany wasn't there. Girl, you didn't get it right. They said, well, what did Cassie say? What was Cassie's response? She said Cassie probably didn't even realize what was happening because Cassie was so high during that time. It kind of got blurry to her. Okay. She met with the government. I met with the government and still talk about the balcony. Have you talked to Cassie about your testimony? No. Okay, so she met with the government. She hadn't talked to the government about the balcony incident. She hadn't talked to Cassie about the testimony, about her testimony. They asked her, like, are you giving up? Are you talking to Cassie about your testimony, her testimony? No. Is there are there any lasting effects about the balcony incidences? She said yes. She said she's paranoid. They asked her, well, what kind of paranoia is it? She said sometimes if she goes to her house, before she walks in the door, she'll kick the door open and scream, ah! Before she goes in. So she walks up to the front door of her house. She jumps back and kicks that mother. And she peeks through. Then she goes in the house and she might scream. Okay. And so she has nightmares. She said she just had one last week. So yes. So she also got a lawyer to oversee so she got a civil lawyer to sue Diddy for the in January 2024. She no longer has that lawyer. She wasn't able to think about what was going on. But the first attorney that she had, because she got two, because the lawyer she got, she fired the lawyer, and I can't wait to tell you which lawyer that was, because this attorney sent a demand letter to Diddy demanding an exuberant amount of money and had all the information in the lawsuit and in the demand letter wrong, was just making shit up. She said she didn't even know the price. He was just making demands, and everything in the letter was incorrect. Let me see if I can show you the lawyer. Okay? This was the lawyer at first. Okay? Hold on. Let me see if I can show you the lawyer. Here we go.
I'm attorney Blackburn, and then
Are you referencing
Tyrone Blackburn.
several people.
some of the victims?
Several of them.
Several of the victims. Okay. Thank you. What are you guys looking at?
Tyrone Blackburn.
How are your clients treated?
Just answered her, and I told her they were not making any statements because of the bag order.
Thank you.
Just answered her question and said that I'm not making any statements because of the bag order.
How do you feel about people saying that you're a clout chasing lawyer?
Just like I answered that woman's question earlier, I'm not speaking as pursuant to the gag order. That's how I feel.
Now, Tyrone Blackburn was the lawyer. So Tyrone Blackburn was over there asking for exuberant amount of cash, demand letters, sending demand letters, making up, adding stories together. He went out and said that Diddy walked up to her, grabbed her by the titties, told her, "Bitch, I'm the devil," and hung her over the balcony. That's what she wrote in the letter. In Tyrone's letter, he wrote that the complaint was Diddy walked up to her, grabbed her by the, told her, "B, I'm the devil," and hung her over the balcony by her titty. She said none of that. That was all incorrect. And at this point, we think Tyrone might have been asking for $200 million. We don't know. So she fired Tyrone Blackburn. Now, everybody gagged because I'm thinking, oh my God. You know, Tyrone was in the court. Tyrone was at the courthouse, so I would have loved for Tyrone to be there. You know, me and Tyrone, he got on my nerves the first day. But, you know, Tyrone's actually key. But the thing is this. If I would have been there, because he used to sit behind me and sometimes we sat on the same row, I'd have looked at him and saw his name get dropped. I wish he was there today because I'd have looked at him like, girl, so you was out here really carrying like that with this lady and just making stuff up and just asking for exuberant amounts of cash. This is why people don't be respecting Tyrone Blackburn, because he always gets tied into the wrong part of the lawsuit. Tyrone Blackburn is a hoot. Actually, one of the days he got kicked out of the court. Because the thing is, if I don't want my lawyer over there being messy, Tyrone be in the damn courtroom doing this, taking notes, and we and they tell you, "Sir, can you please be quiet? You cannot talk in the courtroom. Every time something comes, You supposed to be taking note every time you say, At one point, I think the man just told her, he said, "Sir, you just won't be quiet. And we're gonna have to ask you to leave the courtroom." I don't need my lawyer being put out the courtroom. You know what I'm saying? Like, girl. And I don't need you and ooh and I and in the courtroom. Like, I don't need my lawyer giving that. You're too sassy and too messy. You know what I mean? Then you need to make sure these documents is right, Tyrone. Girl. So I can't wait to see what he says to that, because she said she had to get rid of Tyrone Blackburn because he filed a demand letter with an exuberant amount of cash, and everything in the letter was written incorrectly. Wow. And so she hired a new lawyer. No, I just threw out the 200 million. They didn't have it. I was just being facetious with the 200 million. I was dragging that a little bit. There's no tea. I was dragging that part. We don't know what the amount was, but we know it was a lot, and it was too much for her to even want, so she had to let him go. Okay. And so and so we got into Rob. Rob, I guess he's a producer, something like that. And so apparently Rob FaceTime, and this is one of her really good friends. Rob FaceTime Bonna. Bonna's the woman that's testifying today. This is one of Cassie's friends, aka Cassie's drug dealer friend. Get high friend. So Rob FaceTimes Bonna from Diddy's backyard. Rob Holiday said that he was calling on behalf of Diddy to settle payment. They were trying to get the offer of how much Diddy was trying to settle for. However, Westmoreland kept objecting to that question. So we never got the settlement amount, but we did. They asked her, what did you feel about when Rob called you and asked you about a settlement for Diddy? Bonna said that she declined what was offered. They asked her if she ever spoke to Rob again. She said no. So I guess Rob is still cool with Diddy. I don't know. They said, did your new attorney help you file a lawsuit? Yes. Why did you file your lawsuit? She said, I want to seek justice for what happened to me. They said, how much are you guys suing for? She said, we are looking for damages in the amount of $10 million. And everybody, ooh. You know, when the numbers start getting out, everybody, ooh, especially the black people, gosh, everybody tense up, 10 million, ooh. Black people, they, ooh. I don't know why we do that. Like, why do we do that? We just start hearing numbers, ooh. And you just, everybody, It's like, girl, what does that mean? Like, girl, everybody, ooh. You know what I mean? It's just it be a lot, and I'm one of them. I am one of them too. Okay, let me just think like, ooh, you know what I'm saying? I don't know. It's just something that we do. And so she said she's looking for $10 million for the back. And listen. You grab me up by my, and then talk me up, and then, and you sneak up behind me and grab me by my yitties and throw me over the balcony and then toss me in a club. I need $10 million too. If I'm kicking the door open and before I walk in the house every day, you need to pay me. If I'm having a panic attack by just getting into my house, I got to Bruce Lee that motherfucker and then That's a lot. That's a lot. That's a lot. That's a lot. And some of that's probably them withdrawals from the drugs. So that ain't all Diddy. Okay. Some of that is the ketamine and the cocaine withdrawal and the G withdrawal. That ain't all Diddy. Some of that is a little, you know, that's a lot on your mental. Okay. So I don't think that's all Diddy. So now, I ain't mad at her though for wanting the $10 million. I'm not gonna hold you. I'm not mad at her for wanting the $10 million. Okay, so boom, now we get to Nicole Westmoreland. Now we're at the crossover. So now she's done. And now we're about to get into this cross-examination and everything that is given. Okay? This is when the tea get hot. And this is where, let me tell you something. This is where Nicole Westmoreland and Brian Steele are some of the best defense attorneys in the game. And their cross-examination game is a nasty, nasty, nasty one. Because Nicole, she knew how to angle this in a way where you'll be like, well, let's just get into it. So Nicole calls, you know, you have immunity, right? What does immunity mean to you? You testified that immunity means if you talk, you are protected. And if you lie, you lose it. Right? She said, true. Who gets to determine if you lie? She said, the prosecution. Okay. Now let's move on. Right there, she came in. What that told me was, to the jury, she's still lying. She's saying what sounds good for the prosecution, but understand, we don't have a right to say if we think she's lying or not. If the prosecution determines she's lying, aka not saying what they want her to say, we're gonna evoke this whole immunity. So there's no real way to know that she's lying because it's at the discretion of the prosecution who in fact put her up as a witness. So that's how she started it out. She said, now, let's be clear. So you started off making about $75,000 for working with Cassie in her creative direction job, right? You said you met at Cassie at, you know, in her Studio City apartment. She was like, it was a house. And you guys did a photo shoot in just a t-shirt. And that's the moment that you knew that Cassie was comfortable. You and Cassie were comfortable with each other, correct? She said, true. She said, and that's when you guys would spend a lot of time together with Cassie, huh? You'd be at her house all the time, spending the night, laying in the bed, sleeping on the balcony, sleeping on the couch every day. She said, yes, you know, we did spend a lot of time. I mean, you know, we're friends. You and Cassie you and Cassie would go shopping, get your hair done, nails done. You party, go to parties. She said, we didn't go to parties. She said, well, isn't it true that you said to the government that you guys went to parties together? Did you party together? She said, well, I don't go to parties, but like, it's the way you're saying it, like I party. Okay, whatever makes you feel comfortable answering the question. You partied. True. Well, yes, we partied. Drugs. Cassie, you did a lot of drugs together, correct? Yes. Cassie asked you actually the first night, right? Do you get high? Yes. And then from that day forward, you and Cassie just started getting high. all the time. You just start getting high all the time, right? True. Well, yes. They said, I know you mentioned, a few other drugs and stuff like that, but I want to go into a few more. Weed? She said, yes. What does that make you do? Well, I'm excited, kind of hungry, and okay. Edibles? Yeah, not too much, but I did, the edibles. We do those edibles. Cocaine? I remember you said the cocaine makes you feel confident. Ketamine. What does that do? Tell us in the jury what that does. She said, it opens your mind. She said, have you been in a ketamine hole, a K-hole? She said, yeah. I don't know what a K-hole is. It sounds freaky. Do you want to come to my K-hole? I don't know. Ecstasy. She said, I feel loose and uplifting. Molly. Well, I know no, you remember you said that you guys would always do Molly all the time. She said, well, no, we do it. I just asked you, would you and Cassie do Molly together? Yes. G. She said, please tell us, me and everybody, what does that do? They said, G makes you feel like you're on alcohol. She says, isn't it true that you said that G makes you feel like you're on alcohol and horny? She said, true. Isn't it true that you and Cassie did acid together? Yes. Percocets? Oh, I didn't like those because those made me throw up, but yes. Vicodin? Vicodin? She said, they said a pain medication? I just asked you, did you and Cassie do Vicodin? I did Vicodin, but I don't know if she did. I'm just asking. Vicodin? Yes. A Cocoa Puff? Everybody looking around like, what the hell is a? She said, yeah. She said, please tell everybody in here, what is a Cocoa Puff? So a Cocoa Puff is you roll a blunt and you poke holes in it and you dibble and dabble and drop sprinkles of cocaine in the holes. And that's the Cocoa Puff. And she said, well, what does that do? She said, it's like a mixture of everything that the weed gives you, but then it also gives you the excitement of the cocaine. So the Cocoa Puff is the cocoa with the puff. You know what I'm saying? So you do it, and it's just there's a lot of going on. You know what I'm saying? So you chill it and you hide and you chill it. That's what it's get. You know what I mean? And then you just end up on a. That's how they go. Excuse me. And they said, well, it just developed into a serious drug problem. And she said, absolutely. So she said, so it was right. So y'all were doing drugs before you met Diddy, right? So right now, what I think she's doing is trying to say, Cassie, you were the one that got Cassie on drugs, and Cassie was also a druggie. And secretly, we might try to make it seem like you was trying to like on Cassie, and y'all were two junkies together. Don't blame this on Diddy. They said you sold Cassie drugs on a weekly basis, correct? She said, true. Have you ever seen Cassie do pills? Yes. Isn't it true that you bought Cassie 100 pills? True. Why did you do that? And isn't it true that you were nervous? I was. Why did you give it to her? They were hers. Cassie was so high, she had 100 pills, Xanax, Vicodin, Percocets. They said did drugs. She did a lot of drugs with Cassie. They said, isn't it true that you would also send Cassie to different drug dealers? She said, yes. Cause she was acting like, I don't remember. No, she was acting like she didn't remember. Cause now she started acting like she didn't remember. She said, isn't it true that you sent Cassie to a drug dealer? I don't remember. What's the name? Ray J? And everybody, ooh. So you sent Cassie to get drugs from Ray J? You know that name? She, oh, I don't remember. I don't know. Who is Ray J? Didn't you tell the government you sent Cassie to the drug dealer? Ray J? Everybody, ooh. Ray J. Then she said, oh, I'm not sure. Who is Ray J? Oh, it sounds like that singer guy, but I don't know. I don't remember. She said, oh, okay. She said, but singer, but I don't know. I don't know. No, she said, but I don't know if that's him. It sounds like that singer guy, but I don't know if that's him. So apparently, Ray J and Cassie, or Ray J, according to these documents, whoever Ray J is, we don't know, because she said it could be that singer guy. She don't know a Ray J, but that whoever Ray J was delivering the drugs to Cassie. That was one of Cassie's drug dealers, is what was said in the courtroom today. I don't know how many Ray J's is in the world. I only know one. So I don't know if she sent Ray J to. They said, who else did you send to deliver drugs to Cassie? And she acted like she didn't know. And they said, who was Ray J? So apparently, Ray J delivered some drugs to Cassie at one point. Okay. Mm. She said, I don't remember. They said, you know that t-shirt line you had with Cassie? It didn't work out, right? Now watch this. It didn't work out. Remember that? She said, well, it worked. It was okay. No, it didn't work out. It didn't really do well, right? Remember she was like, I don't remember. Didn't you say it was because of Beyonce and Rihanna? And what's about Nicki? Now I was like, oh, is it Nicki Minaj? But no, it was Nicki Skate Company. Apparently, the company that they were working for wasn't really focusing on women's clothing that much, so it just really wasn't selling as much. So it's not Nicki Minaj. It was like a Nicki Skate Company, but basically she was saying Rihanna and Beyonce was too much competition, so Cassie stuff wasn't selling in comparison to Rihanna and Beyonce. And I don't know if Cassie thought she was that girl. There's a lot of Cassie was thinking that she was battling Beyonce back then. I don't know. Cassie really thought she was with Diddy, so she was Beyonce. It was Beyonce, Jay-Z, Diddy, Cass. I don't know what. This is the second time Beyonce done been mentioned. Cassie had a little battle going on with Beyonce. And so she said Beyonce and Rihanna were the reasons why the line didn't take off. Okay? She said it wasn't Diddy who pretty much stopped you from, it wasn't Diddy who held you back from, it was your huge competitors. Diddy didn't stop you or stop Cassie. It was the huge competitors. Diamond Supply Company, you and Cassie, for whatever reason, you guys didn't work out, right? You couldn't do your job because you were getting high every day. Right? You couldn't do your job. You were getting high. She was basically saying, like, y'all were two junkies. How could you work? You're getting high every day. You and Cassie had your own relationship, right? She said, yes, we were close. You still friends with Cassie? Yeah. You still friends with Deontay Nash? Yes. When's the last time you talked to Deontay Nash? After he got off the stand? Ooh. Everybody, ooh. What'd you guys talk about? Nothing. When's the last time you talked to him? Well, today. He texted me. Oh, what did he text you about? Oh, he just asked me for my girl's number. And you didn't mention nothing about the case or nothing about the stand or nothing? No? Oh, okay. Have you spoken to Cassie since the trial started? I don't remember. What do you mean? Have you spoken to Cassie since the trial started? Okay, let me make it clear for you. Have you spoken to Cassie since we've been on trial? Yes. All I said was I asked her how she was doing and sent her a bathtub that she might like. Okay. So you don't mean to tell me you never talked to Cassie about the case? Well, Cassie texted me today. What did she say? I didn't respond. So she just texted you just never talked to her about nothing? No. Okay. So you hired Tyrone Blackburn, then fired him, and the other lawyer was going to sue Diddy with you, right? Yes. Like Cassie did. Yes. So why didn't you tell? You met with the jury, you met with the government, but yet you didn't tell them that Diddy threatened you and said he would kill you, right? Until you met with Tyrone Blackburn, until you filed your lawsuit in January of 2024. She said, well, I thought it was a meet and greet. So I didn't want to tell them everything. So I didn't tell them all the information. I thought it was a meet and greet. Everybody laughed like a meet and greet. You thought you were doing a meet and greet with the government? It said in November 2023, Cassie filed her lawsuit. And then did you tell Cassie about your lawsuit? No, she didn't tell anybody. She said, did you talk to Cassie about her lawsuit? This one is going to get interesting. She said, yeah, Cassie asked permission to put my name in her lawsuit, but I said no. But I did say, she said this happened in a hotel, and you said no, it happened in your apartment. So you and Cassie discussed what happened. So this is when it got interesting. So now we take a turn. So Nicole Westmoreland is the defense. So what she's doing now, because I still don't know, but this is why I'm saying this is a really good lawyer. Because now Bonham was like trying to talk, but when you're on the stand, you're only supposed to say yes or no. Did I ask you a question? Yes or no? You can't really control how the defense angles the question. So her line of questioning makes it come across as if her and Cassie planned this whole thing. So boom, she gets into, you and Cassie discussed this lawsuit, right? And you guys discussed the balcony incident. And you guys were going to make a plan, and you suggested, you guys were discussing where this happened, apartment versus hotel, right? True? She said yes. You and Cassie were discussing, dates. You guys were trying to negotiate dates and figure out which dates, suggesting which dates were the right dates. True? You guys also discussed who you guys suggest. You guys also discussed who you suggested that was there, correct? Like Tiffany Red. So you guys were like trying to figure out and suggesting who was there. Basically saying that they were coming up with this balcony lie because now Cassie had a lawsuit. And so Cassie was telling her friend, girl, now we're going to say that he hung you over the balcony. And so let's come up with a theme and say, okay, boom, we're going to say this at their apartment or hotel. Which one are we going to go with? Okay, we're going to go with the apartment. Okay, then we're going to decide, okay, what are the dates? We got to be on the same page about the dates because this will be locked in on. All right, boom. All right, so who are we saying? Tiffany was there? She's not there. Okay, boom. You told Cassie she was there, and she didn't recall that. You and Cassie had these conversations between 2023 and 2024, right? You guys were talking about this. Yes. You spoke to Cassie before she filed, right? Yes. You and Cassie spoke about the balcony and discussed dates, location, who was there, and who wasn't. And then you went and hired a civil attorney once you had your story right. Is that true? Yes. But she was like, it's the way that you're saying. She was like, it's the way that you're asking it. But okay, so I get it. She was like, I guess it's the way that you're asking, whatever. But she was basically saying like, girl, you're asking me in a way to suggest that I was making this up, but whatever, yes. And then at some point, she just started acting like she didn't remember nothing. Because I feel like she was getting flustered and she didn't want to like throw herself more deeper down the rabbit hole. So she kept acting like she didn't remember. She didn't remember. They said, and so at that party back on the 29th birthday, you testified that you saw Cassie and Diddy fighting, but you never saw them actually getting physical with each other, did you? No. I did not see them fighting. Isn't it true that you told the government that Cassie and Diddy would get into knife fights all the time? I don't remember. Where did Diddy? So you mean to tell me you don't remember, but Diddy would just bang on the door. You don't know how. He just walk in with a knife and chuck it at Cassie, and she chuck it back and just go home, and you stayed and you felt safe? Do you remember when you told the government when Diddy walked up to you and called and said that he was a devil? You said that it was at a photo shoot first. No. You said it was at a photo shoot. But do you remember that you told the government that he walked up to you and told you that at a party? I don't remember. She kept saying she don't remember. They said, you do know that when you sit with the government, there is a note taker there, right? January 2024, the demand letter was sent. January 31st. First allegation was after the demand letter. So when Tyrone, I wrote Tyrone her up because Tyrone put all, because she was basically saying that this whole monster thing and Diddy threatened to kill her and all these different things, that all came after Tyrone put that in the demand letter. She never said that, but after Tyrone put that in the demand letter, then she started saying that Diddy said that to her. But because Tyrone said that he put it all together, Tyrone said that Diddy ran up to her, grabbed her, held her over the thing, told her, I'm the devil and I'm going to kill you. I could kill you, B, while hanging her over the balcony. But that was two different instances. But Tyrone put that in a demand letter. But the problem is she had several meetings with the prosecution before her lawsuit she filed in 2024. So she never brought that up until after they filed the lawsuit and the demand letter was sent. So she started regurgitating what Tyrone said. You met with the government before the demand letter and never mentioned I could kill you. Tyrone was at that meeting, right? Yes. What did you do to fix that? She said, I let him go. He had it all mixed up. Isn't it true that after the demand letter, you started saying he said he could kill you? So after Tyrone wrote that demand letter, then she started saying that he said that. Isn't it true that Diddy said that you were giving Cassie too much? Isn't it true that you would run out of money for drugs? At one point, you couldn't afford your own drugs. Isn't it true that sometimes Cassie would cover the cost of drugs? True. Isn't it true that Cassie would buy the drugs from you? True. Isn't it true that part of your income for you to pay your rent was Cassie buying drugs? Well, that was just part of my income. Well, I said that. Isn't it true that a part of your income was reliant upon Cassie buying drugs? Do you remember talking to the government? 5/25/25? Yes. Do you remember talking to the government June 2nd of 2025? Yes, not that long ago. Yeah. Do you remember talking to the government June 3rd, 2025? Yes, not that long ago. Do you remember talking to the government June 4th? Well, that's today. Yes. Because she kept saying she didn't remember. The first demand letter went out January 2024. The second demand letter went out February 21st, 2024, right? And then you filed a civil suit in November of 2024. And that was the allegation of the balcony where a civil suit was filed in November 2024. Okay? And you said you were sleeping and he was banging on the door. But in the first interview, you said you was at a party. Hanging out. So were you just said today you were looking over this, then you said you were sleeping. First you were looking at the view, then you were sleeping, but then when you first said he hung you over the balcony, Y'all were at a party hanging out. She said, well, I don't remember. She said, you do understand the government is taking notes, right? You didn't tell the government that you weren't asleep, you were at a party. You didn't tell the government that you didn't tell your girlfriend to hide in the bathroom when this happened. And you never said that Diddy was banging on the door when you were talking to the government, right? No. The first time you mentioned Diddy was bashing on the door was in your civil suit. So you just took it and ran with it, huh? She just went with it. First, you said you was on the balcony smoking weed. Then you said you was on the balcony smoking cigarettes. Then you said you was on the balcony pretending to smoke weed. You do know all three of those things are completely different, right? She said, true. She said, first you said you were looking inward, facing the balcony, and you saw Diddy charging at you. This is the news story of the balcony. First, they're like, so the news story is she was looking forward inside the house, and Diddy was coming at her like this. Now, the news story is she was looking at the view, and he groped her and lifted her up. But the first time she said he was charging her across the rooms. So her stories just keep changing. And she said, isn't this the first time that you're now alleging that he essayed you? Everybody said, ooh. She said, I just said how it was. But isn't it, she said, no, you said he grabbed your yitties and squeezed them so hard they had bruises. Didn't you say that? She said, did you feel like that was really he was really touching you, or you feel like it was accidental? Didn't you tell the government that he uplifted you by your yitties? You squashed your yitties so bad they had bruises? So sometimes you told the story, she saw you. Sometimes you told the story, she did not. I just don't remember. So that was today. Here's the thing. Here's my take on the situation. I still believe that this girl is right. I just think that Diddy's team has a really good team. The only thing that's going to be interesting is if they did make that up and they did lie, the defense is still going to have to prove to me, well, everybody, how did she get the bruises and the marks on the photos? Like, because I feel like, okay, Nicole, you're doing a good job by making it seem like they concoct this whole thing. They were two junkies. Maybe she even liked Cassie. There was a lot going on. She needed money. They were both, full of crap and high, too high to remember what was going on. But how did she get the bruises? Where did the bruises come from? Because she's alleging the bruises came from being hung up in the balcony and thrown on the furniture. So if you can prove to me that those bruises came from something somewhere else, then I'll believe you. But if she doesn't address those marks, those bruises, then I feel like she did good in trying to create doubt in the way that she angled her questions. But we're going to have to make it clear on where those bruises came from. So that's what's going on here. So we're back in the courtroom. We got a lot going on. So again, updates. I got to run out of here. We're filming another show for TMZ today, guys. So shout out to that. Tomorrow morning, I'm gonna be a little bit late in the courtroom, but I got people that's gonna give me some notes because we're filming Nancy Grace in the morning. It's gonna be on in the evening, and you can watch it 24 hours later on YouTube. But it's gonna be on network at 6 p.m. that night, or maybe even the next day. So that's that. And make sure you guys send me some cash apps and stuff to the More Oil Fund, please. Thank you. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so. Please hit the subscribe button right now. And lastly, follow me on Instagram. We're almost at 100K. So I love you all. And yes, thank you guys for being here. Thank you guys for being here, supporting the live, being in the comments, really getting into some things with us. We're doing this coverage. And remember, whatever you guys heard about that whole fight thing that happened at the courthouse, I was not into it with nobody. I have no drama. That lady came out of nowhere harassing me at the courthouse, shall. So yeah, I don't know what story is going out. I was not in the overflow room arguing with her. None of that. So yes. End of the day, love y'all. Talk to you soon. And I'll see you tomorrow. Peace out.